Yo, what up, YouTube? How's it going? Now, I'm not much of a YouTuber. I'm not much of a person that likes to rant or talk shit. But this market economy got us all fucked up. Let's be honest. And cut the whole being professional gig. Like saying things nicely. And listen, man. Like I know just as much as you do that this whole gig about acting like a nice guy, professional nonsense is just an act to keep people from ever getting angry at anything, from saying the shit that you want to say. Let's be honest. You can't be professional and angry at the same time. You can't talk the things out your mind, the things that you want to say as a professional. You can't complain about nothing as a professional because that's very unprofessional, right? Let's be honest. This is bullshit. This market economy is bullshit. And but regardless of that, I'm trying to build something here because I don't know, man. This shit, like, don't get me wrong. When I started this career as a software engineer early on before I finished a bachelor's degree. At that time, it felt like they would love to hire me and it would be very easy to get a job. But it could coincidentally just be the market economy. But, the tech industry has been booming, and they were just hiring people without college degrees and everything like that. But then, I went ahead and I've been through some job changes. I went ahead and finished my bachelor's degree. I started my master's degree, and I'm more than halfway completed with my master's degree now. I finished two MIT postgraduate certifications in quantum computing and artificial intelligence, and I've been on this educational path nonstop. It wasn't until I finished my undergraduate degree, my bachelor's degree, I started realizing that there was a lot of people that were doing their grad studies, their master's degree, and they were unemployed. It seems like no one is going to hire them. And I always questioned this thing because it seemed like a lot of these grad students, they were very good at what they do. They weren't no cheeseball engineers. They were very talented. But it seemed like they were always poor. They didn't have the resources, they didn't have the money, and nobody's hiring them. I never understood why until I started my grad studies and program. Like, what the fuck is this? Bro, it's like when you do your master's degree, they undervalue and they lowball you, and then you start to see the racism and shit in the market economy. And of course, nobody's gonna explain bias to you, but as a minority, pursuing something better than the quota, than the white evangelical Christian community, it's like they're gonna start lowballing your ass. Like they're gonna try to put you in your place. Like, no, you're not management material no more. You can't compete with us. Yet the no degree motherfucker, the no degree white boy, come on, all the way to management, doing what? Bro, this kind of bullshit I've been seeing for a very long time, and it just never ceases to amaze me. But listen, I'm not trying to pin no blame on no white boy, nothing like that, bro. Like, it's got nothing to do with you. There's some people with there's a lot of bureaucracy in the corporate world, and I gotta tell you, like, it's never what you think it is. Now, I used to see these great engineers, great leaders get fired for the stupidest reasons, which makes no sense to nobody. And I never understood why, but now I understand. It's almost as if the market economy, what they do to people is that they keep recycling people. They will replace the new generation with the old generations. They will run the old generation down like dogs, squeezing every life they can out of them until they're not worth it anymore. And then they're gonna replace them with the next generation. They're gonna keep the market cycle repeating itself over and over again. That's what they're doing to people. And the funny thing is, when it comes to the older generation, it's like they put them into technologies that have no future in the software engineering world. Is they could be very picky about it. They could just drive things down to newer technologies. They could phase people out, and the older technology is just setting them up to just kill their career. And I'm not joking with you. And the worst thing is, if you are an experienced engineer and you're willing to learn new technologies, then they try to make it seem like you're not senior level anymore, that you're new at something new, therefore you're no better than anyone else. They don't want to respect you. They don't want to respect your market value or anything like that, and they just keep rinse and repeat. This is how they're playing everybody, bro. This career, software engineering, is a huge fucking scam. And I don't know how many people caught on to this. Because think about it. There was never a job shortage in software engineering, as we can see. Please, come on. No. They were saying that Americans, or people that were accustomed to being more American, the American lifestyle, living much better than other people on average, right? Like when Americans were looking for jobs, they didn't want to give it to them. They wanted to find an excuse. They're just trying to say that Americans are not qualified for these job roles. Instead, they would rather hire a foreign immigrant that would work a lot harder. They will take their education a lot more seriously. They'll finish their master's degree just to get their H-1B visas, just to work for a lot cheaper than Americans. And that's what they were attracted to. That's why they were like, no, we're just going to pretend like nobody else is good enough for these jobs because we don't want to pay the salaries for that. That's what they're doing to people. And if they do hire somebody, look at the people that they hire in the corporate world. These bullshit ass people with very little knowledge, they do some bullshit ass work, but they're a principal software architect. That made no sense to me, brother. Like, there's a lot of bureaucracy in this market, and nobody's willing to call it out, but it's a lot of bullshit in here. I gotta tell you that. But just keep your eyes open for shit like that before you work for anybody. But anyway, like, I'm trying to make this thing happen. Look, like, if you want to know a little bit about me, like, I'm 32 years old now. I have a 1-year-old son that I haven't seen in a year. He's turning 2 years old. Thankfully, I have good parents, and he's living with his grandmother now. I had to fight a whole custody battle with my ex-spouse, and it turned nasty. She was extremely mentally ill, unfortunately. Like, I mean, I loved her to death and stuff like that, but she was not a good mother, honestly. And just be careful with gorgeous women. I got like, if you want to just be careful. Like, relationships are complicated. There's a lot of mental illnesses now, and when you have a child involved, things just get really, really bad and messed up and stuff. So unfortunately, something bad happened. I had to fight for custody. I ended up incarcerated with a GPS tether, and I lost my job, unfortunately. But like, this stuff shouldn't keep you from, like, but I've never dealt with the kind of economy like this. This is ridiculous. And I've been through so many interviews, like, literally so close, like, all the way up to C-level executive interview. Like, there's many times I talked directly to the CEO of a company, and they were like, they get one of the companies were pretty much like, I spoke to a CEO on LinkedIn, and I was reached out initially by a recruiter, and then I connected with the CEO. I went through the entire interview process, spoke with the VP. The VP was like the toughest person, apparently, and I got through him. They were telling me, the recruiter was telling me, hey, listen, everyone that spoke to the VP is very hard to please him, and not a lot of people are getting past him. I went past him without an issue. We had a great conversation. Now my next round was to speak with the chief operations officer. This lady asked me the worst questions you can. Like she started asking me about gaps in my resume and stuff like that. But the VP was like all with it. It's like, yo, this is the guy. Put him on board. And I made a good connect with the CEO as well. His like hey, I'm interviewing. I'm in the interview process for one of your roles, and I just want to let you know that I'm keeping up with your company, and a lot of kudos and respect to what you're doing. I mean, the guy is an old cat. He's been around the game for a while. Back when the .net bubble uh, was big on advertisement, and uh, he's one of those engineers that were promoting the cookie advertisement click and advertisement tracking software that received a lot of backlash later on. But that was pretty interesting. But he had a good business going. Basically, he's working with a legal team, a lot of lawyers that are keeping up to date with compliances in in companies now. Basically, they want to, a lot of these companies, in order to kind of have a valid, unbiased regulatory process, they have to hire a third party consultant agency to do these compliance checks. So he has a network of lawyers that he started a business with to kind of like audit a company's compliance. So and just manage those records for legal purposes and stuff like that. So he became like a third party entity and a cloud provider, built a technology to keep those regulatory processes. That was his business basically. Pretty interesting. But yeah, like I've been through this whole process, and a lot of these cats are telling me that. And one of the interviews literally told me, "Hey, listen, you're the guy that we're looking for." I asked him the question. The interview was going great. We did everything right. And I asked, so then when it was time to ask me a question, I was literally like, "Okay, hey, listen. So what is your ideal candidate for this role and position?" I asked him this question. What did he say? Well, Rafad, you're it. You're probably the guy that we're looking for. He seemed to be everything that we're looking for, and he kind of gave me a hint. It was like, but maybe the amount of money you're asking for might be the problem. He kind of hinted me. He kind of hinted to me. He was like, I don't know about the finances and stuff like that, but that seems to be the problem. It's always some sort of fucking budget issue. Now, I don't know if it's because someone's being cheap about it. The CEO's just putting this overhead not to hire people. They're just trying to put out fake advertisements to show that the market is growing and growing, but it's not. Maybe they're trying to get the feds to decrease interest rates and show a growing job market. I don't know what the fuck it is, but that's what's going on here. That's what's going on. And so that's the issue. Now, why is it that I would ask for a lot more money than normal? Well, because these companies have hard RTO mandates. They want people to return to office. Return to office? Dude, I live in Michigan. I own a house in Michigan. Why the fuck am I going to go in the office, bro? Come on, dude. Office? What the fuck you mean office? Office where? Oh, Maryland, some fucking state that I gotta hop on, drive 100 miles and figure out a living space. That's what the fuck I gotta do now? Come on. Alright, fine. If I have to do that, I want a lot more money. No, we're not gonna give it to you. You see the bullshit in this market, bro? You see, brothers and sisters, do you see the bullshit in this market? It's fucking unbelievable. It's unreal. Oh, God, jeez. Listen. Here's the deal, man. All you motherfucking programmers out there, you got some skill. You got some shit you can do. You gotta stop looking at each other and getting competitive with each other. The number one thing you have to do is start building your own shit. That's primary number one. These cats, I gotta tell you, in my 8 years of working in the corporate world, they're afraid of programmers. They're afraid that you can use your skills to start building things to outcompete the services that they have. And I'm not joking with you. If you think about it, with all the new technologies that are out right now, it's a lot easier for one person to start building their business and automate their infrastructure and everything without having tens of thousands of engineers. And if you start thinking like that, there's a lot of competitive potential to build things to kind of decentralize a lot of these platforms that they have. Like I strongly believe that the future of the world, we're all going to end up becoming sharing and competing for space and content creation, advertising ourselves, having our own business inputs, various things like that. And I think I think so. This is like basically that's what I'm doing here. I'm spending a lot of time to kind of build this platform to basically to kind of like market myself. Where is it? Okay, so I'm building this platform here. I'm gonna go ahead and play this video and kind of just explain everything that I'm doing here. And the whole goal of my business is just let this shit go. So yeah, that's the concept. It's not there yet. This stuff is not deployed out yet, but something I'm working on. What I'm building is a freelancing platform, and don't ask me why I didn't like file like an S corp or anything like that. And I want to market myself and call myself a CEO. I'm not interested in this corporate title bullshit. But if you want to know the route of making corporations, I'm also like I've been a pattern day trader that got that's been on the wrong side of luck, and I lost like $50,000 in the market. But yeah, just gambling day in and day out. Like it's been a really bad market, not gonna lie to you. But basically, the idea here is I'm building this business I filed for as an LLC, and I rather keep it that way. The reason being is when it comes to corporations, it's very hard to maintain like a public company. There's a lot of compliances and regulations that you have to go through, especially if you want to file on NASDAQ. Now you have a mandatory quarterly report, compliance regulation checks, and you have to be so focused on keeping your business updated on that end that it's like that is probably the most headache of a job you can imagine. And so you're probably not going to have enough time to do anything else, because every single month you got to prepare the next report, right? So like when it comes to this, I want to avoid all that, and rather I would rather do a business where it's just fair transaction. You do work and you get what your income for the work that you provide. So that's the idea. Like what I'm building is a platform for freelancers, and this isn't in competition with Upwork, because or like just bypassing Upwork, period. And and just creating a niche of a platform for, like, maybe a closed niche platform for freelancers in particular to kind of advertise themselves um, in the market economy for the kind of work that they can provide. And there's a variety of different kind of freelance work, especially for content creators. A lot of these kids now are making a shit ton of money that we dream we could live, and it's pretty amazing. So what I'm thinking here is that there's a lot of people with a lot of talent, whether it be video editing, creating TikTok videos, or editing videos on YouTube. That is a very useful skill already. Um, and I have no idea how to do any of that. I'm a developer. I'm a software developer. I develop web technologies, mobile technologies, worker service applications. I can develop Windows applications, things like that. I mean, anything. I can develop bugs. I can develop I can develop server side applications. I can exploit and engineer vulnerabilities and stuff like that as well. But I mean, reverse engineering, that's a big one too. I mean, that is a pain in the ass. I'm not gonna lie, but and those are expertise that I do have. Um, and again, that's more on the cybersecurity end. But a lot of people have a variety of skills that they can utilize and start working on. And cybersecurity, believe it or not, I mean, is a very difficult field. It's probably the most hardest field to not only get into but also master, because there's so many different layers in cybersecurity that are untapped right now. The only thing is, it's not that profitable to be in cybersecurity in the market. Let me explain. Because if you pursue a cybersecurity engineering role, there's a lot of overhead to learn, and it's never enough. And the more technological background you have, the stronger you'll be in cybersecurity. Yet, cybersecurity is a field where people do not demand those services unless there's a heavy opposition to them not having it. So, one of the biggest threat to companies and their assets is pretty much them being able to be compliant on NASDAQ. And the biggest threat to that is hacking their data, basically. So there's like a balance in, like, how to monitor and get people to get the budget for it. Basically, the more you hack databases, the more they're gonna want cybersecurity engineers to protect it. So so there is a relation to that. So you kind of understand the economics of how things work in the business world now. But anyway, so there's a lot of potential and opportunity to kind of, like, do freelance work to not only help build other businesses, but also, like, doing research on businesses and creating like a database of kind of things that you can do. But anyway, never mind that. But, like, the whole basis of this technology or this platform right here is just that freelancers are able to advertise themselves and get clients to schedule a call with them. You'll go ahead and maybe create your invite links, maybe add some sort of profiles and things like that. And basically, now you would have another thing where, like, you can speak to your clients, and you'll have like a bunch of access, a bunch of tools that you can access from this website. These are a lot of tools, and each one of these tools can be a very big platform. And I kind of designed it that way, just to keep it open for, suggestions to kind of build a lot of platforms for my product, and always have something to do, basically. But basically, for freelancers, an easy way to make money is just to do freelance work. They will have a project management tool where they can create projects, new project, and they can juggle different projects, and you could just whatever. Your client name is Jenny, and you're gonna plan this project on Thursday, and it's due at the end of the month. something like that. And we're going to go ahead and save it. Maybe I'll delete these two projects. And voila, you have a new project now. And basically you can go ahead and this is a project management tool. And basically what you can do is you can start planning out a project for Jenny and build and basically start planning the work it will take to build this project. After you get into contact with Jenny and you get off a scheduled phone call with her, and you've done a video call with her, and you know this person's priorities and what they demand in their business, you can go ahead and you have this project management tool for freelancers where you can start planning out your tasks. And let's say I will feature 1, and basically go ahead and assign tasks and hours to yourself and start planning out the work that you're going to do for Jenny, I guess. So yeah, sorry about my typing. I'm not thoroughly in the mood for this right now, but and let's say like you finish task 1, and let's say you have a third task that you can assign to another freelancer. Basically, let's say another freelancer can do it a lot cheaper, and you want to expedite it, and maybe you want to help Jenny save costs, and you want to help get things done faster, or maybe you have other projects that you're managing, so you want to hire another freelancer to do something for you. So here you have so go ahead and find the freelancer that you're looking for, assign a task to him or her, and now you have basically a project management tool where for the first week you have a total cost of X amount of money. This is the amount of work that you're doing and the amount of hours that you're planning for the work, and something like that. And also you can go ahead now and edit a deadline for this. Basically this is 1 week deadline. So let's say the first week you started the project in, let's say, Wednesday, so 1 week from there is the 10th, is due on the 10th. The project is pending. You're going to attach an invoice link here, paymehere.com/invoice123, and let's go and save this, and over here, and maybe for week 2 you're going to edit this as well. You're going to start on the 11th and you're going to finish it on the 17th or so, or let's keep it like that. Okay, so this is your project, and let's say we have 2 tasks here. Yeah, there seems to be a little bit of a issue here, but let's save it here for now, and let me see if maybe there's a little bug in there that I'm gonna look for later, but for now, let's see. Okay, whatever, maybe I can't open it now, so okay, so maybe there's a bug that's keeping me from opening it. Something may have happens, but whatever. But this is the general idea. So let's say you go ahead and plan out your work. Now it doesn't necessarily have to be due every week, but I'm just saying, like, you can always edit this if you want to call this sprint 1. By default I'm calling it week 1 and doing weekly plannings. more geared for freelancers and less geared for like enterprise project management. Because remember, like when you're a freelancer and you're actually doing the work, you are the project managers of your work. So you don't need the same kind of solutions as Jira would offer you. This is the reason why I'm building this kind of platform, because what I want is like an all-in-one integrated solution to kind of look for, especially for this kind of stuff. So now the next thing is basically you're going to go ahead and generate a link. And once you do all this project planning stuff, you generate the link and you save your data. And in your database, let's see what we have in the database. You have all this stuff for Jenny saved in the database. All your calculations for the project is done for you. And you can see, like, with the task pending that you have like a total income that that you're able to make. And so these numbers start to add up in the back end. And like basically this is a project time tracker summary, and it's going to track all your income that you have the potential to make and everything like that. So basically it's calculating all this stuff for you and keeping a track of all of your budget, all of your project budget and progress. And basically when you generate a link, this is a link that you will send to Jenny through an email after you finish your project management. So you go ahead and click that link, and here you go. You have this dynamic. Now this is a application that I built in React, but this is a publicly available link that's going to be available for Jenny, and Jenny will click the link, and this is what she will see, and she'll see like a welcome. Hey, welcome Jenny. Your project name is Project 6. This is the start and end date. This is the total cost of the project. This is how much you've paid. This is how much is pending to be paid. The status of your project is still pending. She has a way to filter between pending work and all work. And over here you have week 1 and week 2. You have a pay invoice link, and you have all this stuff in here. So now for the first iteration, there are 2 members, and I kind of highlight that out. You click this, and now basically Jenny's able to see and track all the work that you're doing. So in here, I will build feature 1 for Jenny in this manner, blah, blah, blah. I will build feature 2 for Jenny in this manner, blah, blah, blah. And you see, she's able to see all the work that you are currently working on, the cost for those tasks, the amount of hours that is assigned, what you're going to be doing. And basically, she will know when these tasks are completed. Now, ideally, when you're doing like web development, one of the things you can do here is, whoops, let me delete this. Okay, so one of the things you can do here is you can add, like, let's say, let's say you want to show the work that you're doing. So you maybe you're using GitHub, and you're saying like, you want to show your client how productive your work is, so they know that, so they feel more confident in paying you for your work and services, so they know that the work that you're doing is honest and you are indeed spending those hours. So one of the things you can do is attach, if you're doing software engineering, you could kind of attach incremental changes to show them that these features took this much work. So one of the ways you could do it as a software engineer is to show commit messages for their code repository, maybe. And then you have like maybe a test web link, where you deploy the application, and you can give them a live demo of the progress of your work. So you can add these kind of links to them, and for different freelancers, this could be something related but different. And you have like a website where you can deploy something and show them the work, your progression of your work. So go ahead and you can save these things now. And basically, as you're saving it, like basically Jenny would be able to see the test web link and the changes that, and they're going to go ahead and click these things, and they're going to be able to see exactly what their freelancer is doing for them and how much they're paying for it. Then you have a pay invoice link. which is going to lead to a payment solution. You're going to match the numbers. The calculation is done for you, so all you have to do is charge them this amount. When the invoice is paid, you keep track of the invoice, and basically, you know, like, and if the invoice is paid, go ahead and update it. Like, all you have to do is go ahead and edit and say the invoice is paid here. Your client paid for the invoice. Save the changes and go ahead and refresh the page. And Jenny is able to see that, hey, this invoice has been paid. Payment made. The status is changed to payment made. And let's say throughout the, you know, throughout the time, let's say your due date is 1/3, and what's today, 1/1. So basically, let's just say, you know, time has passed, and, you know, like the date. Well, I can just update it from here actually. The date is actually, you know, let's say I plan to start this on December. Say I started in December. Let's say the time has passed. So basically, the algorithm works in a way where, you know, when the payment due date is passed, then the status is changed to work started. So basically, the whole idea is, this is a time tracker. This is a project management that will basically work with the deadlines that you have provided and the costs of the work that you are applying for the, you know, for the client, basically. Now, when your work is completed finally within the deadline, hopefully you get all these tasks completed. Basically, what you're going to go ahead and do is you're going to go ahead and check off the tasks as completed. You're going to save the data, and as you make these changes, the client is able to see that these tasks are updated, and you provide the links to the changes and all that kind of stuff, and the client is able to keep track of the work. Now, when you finally complete the tasks and you save it, now in here, like when I completed the task, I actually went to the filter completed. I went ahead and saved the changes. So there you go. You have an invoice paid, and you have work completed. And there you are. You have, like, you know, a fully project management solution for freelancers. And so this is the idea here. Now, this application I built in React. This was my first React application. I kind of just worked through the bootstrapping as well to kind of made it more mobile friendly. Except for the background, I guess I gotta pack that one in. And as you can see, it kind of, like, you know, collapses pretty well as well. So you see here, and then so that one is almost ready to be kind of deployed out there, but I still have a lot more other work to do with worker service and stuff like that. Now, this application is kind of is working with a basically. There's a couple of things. There's quite a bit of work here. Actually, is deceptive, but basically this Angular application. Kind of, let me just go ahead and talk about the systems design and architecture and stuff like that. There's a lot behind the work that I've done here, and it's quite deceptive. Let me go ahead and introduce people to what I have here. So this application here is a Angular application. It's a pretty big application. I call it Hydroblend Web-Home. This has, like, all these sources. This is pretty big. This is pretty heavy. It's pretty compact. There's quite a bit of work here. So it's pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy. Everything in here is pretty heavy. All the best practices in here. And I try to simplify my design. I didn't make it too what do you call it, like I know a lot of people, when it comes to, like, Angular, they like to use various templates and reusable templates and things like that, and in my experience, it's hard to change those templates. So it depends on the systems design and architecture. I'm not going to generalize too much. In my experience, I noticed that those templates usually tend to break, and basically it's either you have to manage the templates, or you always have to create new templates anyway when there are changing requirements and things like that. So I like to be flexible in development, so I use the appropriate level of software design and design patterns and things like that. So in here, but you'll see quite a bit in here. Authentication guards, all that kind of stuff, filtering services, custom filtering services, uh, various stuff in here. I think we have a guard here too, like subscription from yeah, I should have it somewhere up here. Auth guard service here. So basically, you get the idea. Various things. Now those are Angular stuff. So the similar concepts can be applied to React.js. So this was a very simple application I wrote in React.js. I realized React.js is pretty fast. It's pretty smooth. It's not bad, honestly. It's a more simple, lightweight application, I'll say. Now this React application works with a separate API service that I developed in Node, very simply. And this is it. It's a very, very simple JavaScript Node.js application, only 2 files that renders it. Basically, just these two. It just hooks into a MongoDB and it executes 2 kinds of queries to retrieve a freelancer and retrieve the project. I find that this lightweight Node.js service is pretty interesting. It has quite a bit of potential. It's a fast development. Although I wouldn't use it for security purposes, just because of the problems with JavaScript being loosely typed, and I think that creates a lot of problems with security. But you can develop something very fast, and I would say, especially if it's a public API service, if there's no need for authentication or handling things like that, I would rather stay away from Node.js if security is a factor. But then I have a Spring MVC API endpoint. This is the main API that hooks into the Angular application, and this is the API that handles security. Now I can talk a little bit about the security in here. Basically, this application is using a custom AES encoder. So this AES encoder, let me explain, is basically it's a encryption using AES, which is a private key encryption. So this is basically what it is. What it does is it generates, every time this application starts, it generates a in-memory key. So as you can see, this key generator generates a key when the application starts. And basically this in-memory key is able to encrypt and decrypt tokens, user authentication tokens. That's basically it. So when the authentication happens, well, what I do is I basically get the user's username and their email and their particular ID. I take it and I encrypt it with this generated key, this in-memory generated key. Because the key is in memory, I don't know what the key is. Nobody knows what the key is. And every time this application is spawned or restarted, the key itself is dynamically generated. Nobody knows what the key is. It's always stored inside the memory. So now this key is going to encrypt the user's ID, email, and username without it using any password. And that key is used to authenticate with the service. Now what happens is this key is then stored in the browser as a token. And let me explain how that works. So you can see here, I store it and I call it a Hydra token. Now this token right here is encrypted a second layer. This key right here is encrypted by a second layer in the browser using a browser library with a secret private key on the browser, and is encrypted and then stored into a storage. This key itself is useless. Basically, it means that this key cannot authenticate with the API service. It has to be decrypted. It has to be decrypted by the browser to have the actual token to authenticate. So you see the dual layer stuff in here. Now, what is the other mitigation security in here? basically the idea is when I generate the JavaScript HTML for deployment, the JavaScript files itself are going to be obfuscated. So it's very difficult to even find out where and how these keys are going to be stored. And that's the security practices I have. So as you can see, as I'm very easily able to read the JavaScript files of this application, these files are not seenable. And actually one of the best applications you can see for security is actually Facebook and Meta. Meta uses a very deep security level. Like I'm pretty impressed by the level of security that they use, because every single piece of their data uses encryption. I was very surprised about it, but they actually use encryption to pass their data, meaning that like when you have a network call, right? They don't just send a token; they encrypt the data that is being transferred again, custom data, and they encrypted a second layer. They actually done quite a bit of work for Meta. I'm gonna have to be I am a little bit impressed. So they encrypt the data that they get back. So the parameters that they're sending in between the data calls are encrypting. That's pretty impressive. I wouldn't bother going that far, honestly, but they have done that, which is okay. So like SSL should take care of that, but I mean they went ahead and did a little bit more than that. So basically they obfuscate the browser from people playing with the network calls and things like that. So basically they don't want people to open up dev tools in Facebook. Pretty interesting. I mean, so now like I know I'm showing the code base, but like I'm not threatened by anyone trying to take this code base. Like good luck with that. But anyway, and also with the security stuff, that's my specialty. Good luck with that too. Let's talk about like HydroBlend. So this hooks into a MongoDB instance. So where I have active auditing and error log handling, basically all that kind of stuff, and basically user activity audits. So these audits are basically every time a request is made, you have basically in here. These are the authentication jobs. Just bear with me one sec. So over here, basically, I have an extended authentication controller, and in here, basically, what I do is when I authenticate the profile, I also authenticate the user profile and cross-check it with the database. What I do is I also log. I log the history of the request. So every single API endpoint is audited, who accessed it and things like that, and is dumped into a log history for user activity. And this is just a dump of all the users actively using and logging the API of the calls, basically. And the purpose of this is basically to have a potential to design a worker service that can monitor these logs to determine if there's a dual authentication in various different regions, or if there's more, or if there's a brute force brute force against my API, where I can kind of develop a whitelist or blacklist in the future for any kind of potential attacks on a website. So this stuff, I just keep a log for now. I'm not actively doing anything about it, but the next step is building a worker service to analyze those logs. If the service ever gets that big, I allow that scalability to happen in the future. So now, basically, because I want it to be a big platform in the future, basically, so that's the reason why I'm doing this. So now, this Spring MVC application is very, like, every single layer of it I designed it myself. So, like, with every single knowledge of encryption, cryptology, and all that kind of shit that, from my grad studies, I put it all together. So I know from various years of experience how to handle this stuff very well, better than JWT tokens or libraries and things like that, because I understand the underlying cryptology of how those things work. So that's why I prefer to go with my own authentication and cryptographic solutions. And basically, I design my own cryptographic solutions as well. So, coupling a hybrid cryptographic solution, what is the level of security that I need for this particular piece and that particular piece, I think it all through. So that's how I'm actually developing this system service right here. So okay, now now you will notice some various things here. Right? You'll see not only you might be impressed by my Java design patterns and factory singletons, observables, and asynchronous singletons, and concurrency handling, all that kind of shit. Uh, Impressive, but like I follow a very standard design where I know how things should work and how things work best, and I stay away from very complex designing if it's not necessary, right? So that's the idea here. Um, Unit testing, I do implement unit testing on certain things, but I don't have the time to implement unit testing on everything. There is a unit test in here, and all this unit test will do is basically tell me if third-party API services that I'm using are still, if there's no updates to it, basically. So census data, for example, they update every year, maybe at best, and I have a template to capture census data. So if those census data ever change their API endpoint, my unit test will fail. But let's see if they did. If they fail now, that means census has updated their API endpoint. So let's see if they run. Let's see if they failed. Let's see. So that's my unit test. So this one passes. So census is still good. So whatever template that I use to capture census data is still good. So here we are. So what did I do with census data? Census data, I actually looked through their entire backend API and just kind of modeled their database. And all of these tests seem to pass. So that's what it is. Like census data is fine, and I'm going to build a platform for census data. So basically, this is what I did. I created a template for census. Like a census key and all that kind of stuff. It's publicly available, but so it's not really like that much for me. And over here, what you see here, now this is me going and writing my own algorithms. So basically what I do is I take the base URI, censusapi.gov, and what I do is I start to create a template for their API structure. So basically what I do is I dynamically generate the URLs for census to pull different reports. You get what I'm saying? So what I do is I built this template and I stored it into a database. Call it endpoint API, and this is a template to generate all the kind of census data that I can. And what I want to build from this is basically a user just selecting, hey, pull this query into census and give me a list of reports that I can pull, pass in these parameters in those reports, and click and just pull all that data into a report. That's what all I want from census. Maybe you can extract it into CSV and download it, or whatever it is, maybe in Excel, and then you want to run some, maybe you want to do some Python data set crap, and maybe generate some AI training or whatever the fuck you want to do with it. That's the idea of it. And basically, what you want to do here is let's see. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't look like a crackhead programmer, but I'm a fucking crackhead programmer, bro. Like, this is some shit that you can't replicate this shit, bro. It's either you got it or you don't. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I just want to show people this crap right here, but where is my fucking unit test? Let me see. You see, I get lost in my own crap sometimes. I'm not gonna lie to you. But here it is, and just give you an idea how crazy census data is. So basically, I'm using these. I designed these algorithms to basically. Now these are some complicated fucking shit, right? So basically, I started with predicate builders, and I would go ahead and design these algorithms very particularly for census. Census is a pain in the ass API. If you ever looked at census data, it's fucked up. So basically what I want to do is I want to have these kind of methods. Add census model, like whatever so this is the template for census. I add it. I build a base survey URL, and I use a vintage and a data set. So I pass these two parameters in. I add any kind of variables that you want to add, And then basically what I want to do is I want to generate a URL for census to dynamically form the URL to retrieve these reports. Basically, that's the idea. And so I want to be able to correctly generate the right URI to get the right report all the time. And I built an algorithm for that. And based on that algorithm, I built these unit tests. Now for this stuff, it's quite a pain in the ass, but basically the idea is like, so this is an example of the kind of URL that you can build in a report. Oh wow, where did that thing go? Let me get back here. Okay, so you see this URL? API Census Gov 2019 PD blog. This URL was dynamically generated by my algorithm, as you can see. So now you take this fucking URL and you go into Census and you want to see, oh wow, I didn't even copy it. And basically you will go ahead and you'll see that this URL is returning like a data set for census. But as you can see, if you were to go to the base URL, like let's say 2019 report, this is census data. Basically you have to kind of map this data. Now this is a very complicated, one of the most complicated data sets that you'll probably ever see in your life. If you're going to try to model and template census data, it's pretty much a pain in the ass. I'll tell you this. So this data, like how it works is basically they have information to generate their own data set. And if you were to go into and copy down one of these links, you'll see that each one of these have like their own dynamic lists of properties and parameters that you can pass into each one of these reports. So basically each one of these reports in census have like an instruction to query into their own data set, and the instructions are different for each report basically. So you have to dynamically pass different kind of variables and different kind of columns and different kind of attributes to pull and generate a appropriate census report data. So to model every single one of these API endpoints to pull and access every single one of these census report is a huge pain in the ass. And this is a really difficult thing to do. So basically the idea is I wanted to build an algorithm, and as you can see, my algorithm works for a particular report, but I have to test it in other reports to kind of get the idea of how to generate other census reports, basically. So that's the idea. And basically each one of these reports are like, you know, like you have to be like an expert on their data and kind of thing. So like, you know, it took me some time to kind of like, you know, just model out their backend database, see how their database is structured. But that's really one of the big parts of developing another tool in HydroBlend, which is going to be the census data analytics platform. And there is a lot of potential for all of this database stuff. So I kind of showed the project time tracking summary, how that works. Now, if I were to go back to some of the other modules that I'm building here, which is like crazy technical work and a lot of crazy data sets, and I want to get to a lot of fun things about like artificial intelligence mining, data mining, and like, you know, fucking with companies and, you know, maybe like fucking with the stock market and stuff like that. Like this shit right here, this is the tool for that, census data analytics. I want to be able to build something really methodical with the kind of tool sets that I have. Now, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Kali Linux's external reconnaissance tool. I kind of built this platform. There's a lot of work behind this one as well, but basically I have enough to basically use the Kali Linux external reconnaissance tool to kind of extract a lot of data from external third-party APIs about companies and stuff like that, and kind of like, you know, rush through the internet to find things about different companies, basically all their internal employees and their contacts and their emails and their social media links and all that crap. So basically, so this data is real. Like I just kind of appended some fake data to it to just test it. And basically, these are like social profile, their Twitter links and stuff like that. Some people's actual Twitter links and LinkedIn accounts, previous employees of Bank of America and things like that. And the data goes on and on, basically. And then basically, so these are the kind of data you can mine on the internet. Then you have profiles. Profiles are like the same thing, like the links, I guess. And then they have push pins. Push pins are pretty interesting because this is a tool. This is a thing where basically you can mine the internet to find pictures and locations that are associated to any one of the company domains or any one of the user profile street addresses that you were able to reap out of the internet, just scrape the web scrapping the internet. And then you can find pictures that are taken over particular locations, and it's called push pins. Now this data right here, what I can do with it is I could put it into like a Google Maps or something like that, and I could put it in a push pin, like a little pin on the dot that shows like, and when you hover over it, it shows you like a picture of a picture that was taken in that area at a certain time. And you could, every time you run the tool, like you can get an active live update of that area and the recent pictures that are taken in that area. So it's a very interesting tool, and I try to map this tool with like catching suspects for NYPD and stuff like that to see if there's any active pictures that are taken within the area with the geo IP tag of cell phone devices and stuff like that. But the thing is, it's difficult to do now because a lot of these big companies, they started shutting down their APIs, and to get access to their APIs is quite a pain in the ass now. So that's what killed the external reconnaissance stuff. Like, getting access to third-party APIs is really a pain in the ass, but it was a great thing when you were able to do it. But it still works, just not for everything. Like, it would be nice if you could use this for Facebook, but Facebook has gotten a lot of lawsuits for this. It'd be nice if you could use it for Instagram. It'd be nice. You might be able to use it for TikTok. I don't know. But yeah, like, there's a tool written in Python that can use some updates for that. And I kind of gave some information about this, the GitHub link, Landmaster53, kudos, respects. Also respects to HackerRank. Like, I know this guy released a lot of resources. He's a YouTuber. I didn't mean to like rip your shit, bro. And honestly, like, I would like go ahead and ask your permission before I put any of your shit on my website. So this is just a placeholder. None of this stuff is commercial yet. Just kudos to these people, these cats, though, holding this work up, man, keeping this stuff alive. Honestly, like, we need people to start exploring this stuff, because a lot of this stuff is going back to these corporate world Nazis, and they just fucking with everybody now. So you kind of get a little bit of my infrastructure details and stuff like that. I got a Node.js, I got a React project, I got an Angular project. Those are the front end stuff. I got a Spring MVC project. Did I show you my Visual Studio .NET worker services? So I have 2 .NET worker services, 1 .NET API. So what are the technologies I'm using behind this stuff? So, and what are the principles of design that I use here? Let me go ahead and kind of talk about that. Now, one of the things that I don't do is I typically don't teach people how to develop. Reason is because I'm not too biased in teaching people how to develop or how to get things done. My philosophy of development is, as long as you get your work done and it works, that's fine with me. And the reason why is because there's 2 kind of biases when it comes to like software engineering and system design and software architecting and shit like that. One of the things is, in undergrad's level, you're going to learn about design patterns and best practices, and software is all perfect if you write like this, if you follow project management like this, and if you follow business design like this, blah 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 blah. But when you get to a grad level, you realize that all this fucking code that you write ends up going through a compiler, and the compiler that spits out the machine code is never going to be perfect at the end of the day, and it's full of vulnerabilities. So that's the issue. And so typically the optimization and the stuff that you're really getting after you write all your code is the real gig, is the real deal. Now that's the thing that you don't know. So when you learn that level of knowledge, you realize that all this code you write, it doesn't matter, dude. As long as it works, it works. It doesn't really matter how you write the code anymore, right? Because you have no control of what the compiler is going to do. So when you learn at that level, you realize that, okay, I guess it doesn't matter if you write code one way or another. It doesn't matter if you implement this background service thread, or you write a task and you say, like, you know, let me execute a parallel thread and run a while loop. That's fine too. Whatever. If it works and it works, I'm not gonna touch it and tell you you did something wrong. Whatever. It works. It was simple. It worked for you. It worked for me. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? So here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you use dependency injection. It'll be nice. It's scalable, maybe. It's scalable, maybe. You know, like maybe if you were able to live without it, you know, that's fine too. You know, you got built-in dependency injection, configure services, .NET Core and .NET 5 and 6 or 7, maybe. If you want to use it, you want to use it. If you didn't know it, I'm not going to kill you. Who cares? At the end of the day, the product doesn't matter. You know, like it doesn't matter if you. It has no business value if you follow best practices or not. You know, so this is a, so there's different, so as you can see here, there are worker services that are processing different things. One of them, this one is an interesting one. This is analyzing a day trading strategy with stock market data. And this one is a huge project on its own. So I just did a sample one and I proved that it worked. I was able to get a close 25,000 investment for one investor for this project, but it's a big project, and you know, and right now the market is very hazy and there's no consistent strategy, unfortunately. And there was a lot of fake marketing AI tools that were in the PDT world, very upsetting. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many strategies you have, or if you're a PhD in finance or what. Like, this stuff is pure luck. It's like, it looks, you only know what happened after you analyze, if you look at the past data. But when you're looking at the past data, you're looking at it with bias, because the trends can change in live data. It's like a quantum anomaly almost. It's like, you know, when you're looking at something after it happened, you will know why it happened. But when you're in there live trading, you won't know how the patterns will form in the future until it happens. But there's no way to predict how it's going to happen, because just as much as it can go the trend you want it to go, it can go the opposite way. You can't confirm the pattern until after it happens. But while it's developing, you can't anticipate it either. You can't anticipate it. You can't anticipate the pattern while it's developing, but you can only confirm it after it happens. So that's there's a bias in it, and it doesn't matter how many technical indicators you use. It's always going to be gambling, unfortunately. So all your stock market algorithms and your mathematics and your quantitative finance is all bullshit. It doesn't work. Sorry, guys. It's a multi-million-dollar software engineering career, but it's fucking worthless. It's useless. As much as people want to try to make it work, it's fucking useless. It doesn't work. The Fed controls everything, and it's saying that, like, the free market economy is indeed free market, but it's not. It's like, it's a manipulated market, honestly. But anyway, like, this worker service here is an automated payment solution. Basically, like, I charge a subscription fee for people that want to advertise on my website. So basically, this is, once they make a payment, the payment is sent as a workflow service, It's saved as a workflow service, and the workflow service is validated through this backend worker service to check to see if the payment was indeed valid or not, and update the user's account status, subscription status, and things like that. So that's how this process works. I have a process to basically process uploaded CSV files into the external reconnaissance database. So that's another processing. And there's going to be other processors as well for other modules, especially if you're uploading data or you're analyzing data and things like that. So you might upload something to have it analyzed. So that's why I have worker services running in the background. And then you have like API services and things like that, a webhook to connect any information that happens with my third-party Stripe API. So I have a layer of automation. And I'm doing this automation just so I don't have to hire like an accountant team and things like that. So that's the idea here. So basically, .NET API, also integrated with Entity Framework, and MongoDB as well. So we're using two databases here, Entity Framework and Entity Framework for Oracle SQL, and MongoDB for dynamic view generations in UI UX. So now here, we have a database, SQL database. So all ends, back end, front end, database, everything is here. So let's talk about the structure and design of my database. Now, obviously, a lot of these database engineers with 20 years of experience, I totally understand where their mindset come from. They're probably working with distributed databases and stuff like that. I don't want to get too in-depth in the system administration and managing multiple databases. All I'm going to do is throw this shit in the cloud and make my life easier. But no disrespect to their skill. I know, like a lot of the engineers that I learned from when I was younger, they had like 20 years of experience in database engineering, so I learned quite a bit from them as well. So here we have a split between functions and stored procedures. Functions handle retrieving data with basically filters, sorting, and security, basically. And I kind of generated like a dynamic query to kind of dynamically generate the where clauses, but I realized I could actually consolidate these queries and make it a lot easier. Basically consolidate all these queries and make it a lot easier. So they would and make it a lot instead of the dynamic query, but whatever, it works well. It works well, and I don't have any issues with this. So one way or the other. So okay, whatever. And then you have the store procedures. The store procedures do internal updates or editing to the database without returning any results or objects in return. So that's the idea of the store procedures. The idea with the function is to return data, and basically, or a function to return a permission for maybe user security, user group security, and things like that, or user report security, and those things that tie in together with references. Those are the things that I'm doing with the database queries. Then the DDL structures, of course. We have this. You have a dump table. A dump table where you insert the data, and then you have a materialized view data where I apply the indexing and the indexing for search optimization, and then I have the dump table just to dump all the data in there. So there's a optimization of read and write. So that's how I structured the database, and that's how the database stuff is, but it's pretty lengthy as well. So we have Oracle SQL, .NET Worker Services, we have Java, Spring MVC, we have Node.js, a very simple React.js application, we got an Angular application, and what else do I got? We got SQL, did I mention that? MongoDB. If you're not convinced with MongoDB, I guess I can show you with MongoDB aggregation queries or something that I've worked on. Not that it's very impressive, but I mean, like, who cares? I mean, this is a Mongo aggregation query to generate the dashboard totals. not that it's complicated or anything like that, but enough to say that, hey, like I don't have to be an expert, but like I know what I'm doing here. I think more or less, like, rather being expert in technology, I'm just expert in foundation, and I can apply it to any kind of technology, and that's the way I look at it. I mean, I care less about how many years of experience you have jerking off with SQL or whatever the fuck you do. Who the fuck cares? I mean, but there's a lot of cocksuckers in this market, a lot of cocksuckers in this corporate world where they're always about what they do and how many, like they really want to glorify the level of bullshit experience that they have doing nothing useful. So what I like in people are typically people that are not so cocky about doing all this shit. Honestly, just like you can get it done anytime you want. That's what I respect. You don't have to compete with other people because, like, whatever, man. Like, I'm not that great. I'm probably not that great in Python. I can get good in Python. I don't care. I don't give a shit about Python. If I don't get paid doing Python, I'm not gonna fucking do it. Basically, that's the way I look at it. But you're gonna tell me that I can't do Python? Fuck it. Well, I'll show you this, motherfucker. I got something in Scala. And Scala's like Python, right? So I built this. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at the crap that I got in here that I've never touched in years, and shit that I like, used to do as a little kid now. And my beautiful face picture when I used to be a lot younger. You have one child and just fucks it all up, right? No, but my son is cute as fuck. My son is adorable. My son is like the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life. Gorgeous baby. That's my life right now. I don't have a life. That's my future right there. Boom. So over here I built this AWS certification tool, and the picture is kind of self-explanatory. You pick a course, and you have this tool where you can just kind of go through a Quizlet of like an entire textbook's worth of AWS questions. So now you can go through it page by page and kind of like, check off your knowledge and kind of prepare for the exam. That's what I did here. So basically, this project I built in Scala, Scala FX, which is an extension of Java FX. So I don't know. One of these cocksucking jobs is going to ask for Java FX, and they're not going to like you because their Java FX is like, much more important, built with concurrency and crap like that. Like, I don't know what concurrency is. Come on, like, these dickheads always want to lowball you somehow. So, because maybe they're undergrads, they have a lot of pride in their work for like the last 20 years, and they're 50 years old. Or, well, 50-year-old cats are pretty cool. I mean, maybe they're like in their mid 30s and 40s and they're dickheads. I don't know. But anyway, there's a lot of bullshit in this market. Basically, you get the idea. So this is built in Scala FX. I like Scala. It's lightning fast, honestly. There's nothing like you've ever seen before. And the idea with this project is, what it does is I have a list of textbooks that I extracted from like a PDF textbook version, right? It's a study guide as a PDF. And basically what I did is I took sections of that textbook with quizzes and answers, and I just printed out the page in PDF, and just printed the section of the pages in PDF and just put it into the questions and answers. These PDF files would now, so let's see if I could get one of these pages to load. This is one of the questions in here, if it loads or not. But basically what I do is I generated a algorithm with a complex regex expression to kind of parse that data into a template, so I can generate the questions and answer in a quiz form. Okay, so it didn't render on GitHub. So basically, the regex expression is able to render this exam using Scala FX. Maybe I can kind of show that QA builder. So here we have these pattern regex expression based on the file inputs. And what I do is I my this algorithm will read through all the question PDFs and the answer PDFs, and it will compact it together to generate the Quizlet. And this is the Quizlet that I developed and studied myself before I took the AWS, started out, and passed the exam. And I passed it on the first try, and it was surprisingly not that bad. But it is confusing. I'm not gonna lie to you. It doesn't matter how many times you look at this crap. You're not gonna know all the questions. So that's what it is. This is built in Scala. No, didn't know Scala in my life. I mean, I haven't worked with Scala at all, never. But first, but I did it, and it works, and it's great. So that's the way I look at it. If you really want to do something, you can do it. Who cares? You don't need to be 10 years experience sucking somebody's cock about programming in a certain language. It's a waste of time, honestly. And I think people need to start seeing things like that, because one of the biggest problems in this field, I'll be honest with you, it's like these guys. It's like a field where theoretically you have many different avenues and opportunities to transition between one technology stack to another, and no two companies use the same technology stack for any particular role. But the job market makes it so difficult for you to transition from one technology to another, and they got people locked into whatever the fuck you've been doing, and if you don't do that, then you're not good enough for any other job. Like, that's how they treat people. Like, it makes literally no sense. Honestly, this is complete bullshit, and this is something that needs to change. So I don't know who are the torch holders in this field, but it's like, there's too much pride in here. But anyway, like, that's all it is. I guess I kind of showed some of my work and the kind of projects that I'm working on, and I'm not holding anything back. And I kind of like to be positive minded and kind of motivate individual work and individual freelance work, and that's what this is about. Just finding other alternatives and avenues, and if someone is willing to respect you for the things you do, that's great. That's wonderful too. So all right, have a good one, and pleasure speaking with everyone here.